On the show today, my guest is Stuart Cain. Stuart is a business owner, father, husband, but when his family went through a horrible tragedy that a lot of people in the world go through, he managed to turn that tragedy into a purpose to help others. This is just an inspiring episode, and I thoroughly hope you enjoy the show. The big thing I say is, like, you gotta win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler podcast. Hey guys, welcome to the show. This is episode 56, and I have the pleasure of having Stuart Cain on the podcast. Stuart is you have your own training facility as well, Stuart, don't you?
Yeah. I opened up the first one of now what's a 19 studio franchise.
Very good.
I did that about almost 9 years ago. So yeah.
So today, obviously, we're not going to be talking. Well, we probably will talk because I'm a gym owner and you're a gym owner as well. So we're probably talking about fitness at some point. But Stuart, you have a story. So you, like last year, no, 2023, you did a climb, and you did it for Ada's Foundation. And for a lot of people that don't know or may not know, the reason why you did it is obviously very personal to you. Could you tell us a little bit about what happened?
Yeah, absolutely. So in December 2022, well, I'll go back a little bit further. Myself and my partner Jodie, we in 2019, we've been together almost 10 years now, but in 2019 we had a miscarriage at 12 weeks, and kind of heartbreaking. Jodie's always wanted to be a mum. I love kids, but I was kind of quite ambivalent about whether I was a dad. I was kind of cool if I wasn't, cool if I was, and that moment made me realize I really did want to be a dad. So the next 2 or 3 years through kind of COVID, everything, we really struggled, thought, maybe we can't have children. I don't know what's happening. And in August 2022, we fell pregnant again, totally unexpectedly. And we had a textbook pregnancy. Everything seemed fine. And in mid-December of 2022, we went to bed on a Friday night. And at 2:30 in the morning, I got woken up by Jodie going, Stuart, I think my waters are broken. Like, that's not what you kind of want to hear or expect to hear. We ended up in the hospital, and they said to us that, Jodie's waters had broken. We were almost between 21 and 22 weeks pregnant. And they said, look, if we can kind of get you, this was a Saturday morning, if we can get you to Monday without going into labor, we might be able to try and do something, but there's going to be problems. Yeah. And on the Sunday morning, Jodie went into labor, got very poorly. They thought she had sepsis, went into labor, and at about 3:00 on the Sunday afternoon, we didn't know what we were having, but our little girl was born sleeping. She didn't take a breath. Obviously, kind of heartbreaking. We were kind of, we thought that, I'm 41 now, so I was just turned 40 at the time, and we thought that was it. That was our chance gone. Seeing your partner as ill and as heartbroken as Jodie was as well is pretty tough, because I don't want to make it about gender, but as a man, through my life, I've tried to fix things for people. That's why I run the business I run, make people happier, and make people better. And there's just nothing you can do with a situation like that to make it better as such. That there was no way to fix it. What had happened, and when we were in the hospital, we were in our local hospital here in Telford, and the care we got was outstanding. Like the medical care we got was unbelievable. They got Jodie well. We were in hospital for about a week. And one thing I did notice, we got amazing kind of, I guess, psychological care, not from any trained counsellor or anything, just the midwives and the team were there were unbelievable. But one of the things I noticed was that practical support didn't really happen. Jodie and I are quite fortunate. My mum and dad live around the corner from the hospital. We've got a car. We're financially secure. So when Jodie needed things, I could nip out to Tesco or whatever in the car. When, first world problems, but when our electric toothbrushes ran out and we didn't have the chargers, mum could drop a couple of normal toothbrushes round from 5 minutes around the corner. But it kind of got me thinking that there's going to be a lot of people in that situation who don't have family nearby, maybe don't have a car, possibly some ladies going in there young, without a partner, without family, who couldn't do that, couldn't, just comfort things like underwear, pajamas, like a little hot water bottle, like a word search or puzzle book to pass the time, just things like that. And so we decided as we came out of the hospital and into the new year that we would set up Ada's Foundation. And we actually discovered that another couple had just started doing the same thing in our area, who had a little boy called George, who, with the same thing had happened to us maybe 4 or 5 months earlier. So we've teamed up with them to, initially to kind of create support boxes for families going through what we're going through or what we went through. Just about 40 quid they cost, and they've got just basics in their water bottle, hot water bottle, a bit of skincare, deodorant, underwear, all of that kind of stuff. And we've actually worked really close to the hospital over the last 15 months to expand what we do. I couldn't believe it because Ada wasn't born at 24 weeks or after. We had the choice, and it's a pretty stark choice, and people often quite surprised by this. We had to make the choice: do we let the hospital, for want of a better word, dispose of Ada's remains? And bear in mind, she was a real, like, she looked like a baby. She was just a small, bigger than I thought she'd be, but a smaller baby. And we had the choice to either have a private funeral, which costs money, or to have the hospital kind of get rid of the remains, and there's just a remembrance garden that you can visit. There's no ashes there. There's nothing. And the funeral cost about £600. And again, we want to hopefully help support families who haven't got the financial means to make that choice. So last year was just all about raising money. It's an interesting one. I'll probably touch on it later. It absolutely gave me a purpose. It's one of the biggest things that helped me through my grief, through the hard times that followed. I guess.
I can only imagine how that felt. Like I can't, like I'm not like so. From my personal experience, like we lost two we two miscarriages in the family, and they were tough. But like you said, it was, you didn't know what to do as the man because there was nothing to do and there was nothing you can do other than be there. But then you're like, you feel like you need to go and fix it and you can't fix it. And I think that's a really hard thing for someone that is primarily put on to be the protector. And it's the one thing you can't fix or protect or look after. And it's horrible. Obviously your situation went, you went through that as well. And then obviously what happened would have been a lot, like, just heartbreaking. And then getting the choice to have a funeral. And I think, like, I know that when Susan had the DNC, like, it was just discarded. It was like, it wasn't a viable thing. We get that and we understand that. But when it's the situation where, like, user in and it's the option of, it must be hard for some people that could not afford to take their child home or and bury their child. And I think that would be a very tough decision. The fact that you're now in a position where you're helping people with that, I think, is huge. But from a, like, it's not about being a man, but from a man's point of view, like, how was the, I suppose you never get over it, you never recover from it. But from when it happened to now, how has your process been? Like, I'm sure there's good days and bad days, and like,
absolutely, there is. And to be honest, there's one thing I will say, and I feel exceptionally grateful for this. Like 5 years ago, I entered the world of kind of self-development, coaching. I've been fortunate enough and to have some great coaches, of which we share one. And I feel very, I don't know if fortunate is the right word, because in the end, I put the money in to get that coach, and I put the energy in, the time in. I made the decision. I did the self-reflection. And sometimes I think we can be a bit hard on ourselves. I'm lucky enough to be with this coach. I made a decision to work with a group of people, my peers and coach. But the training I've had really stood me in good stead. Like, it kept me relatively neutral. Like, on the day that Ada was born sleeping, I still told my accountability group 3 wins because I was determined that I wasn't going to fall into a pit. Like, I'd had this training for a reason, and it was these moments when things are going well, that training just kind of sits there. But when things really go south, that's when we need these tools that we've been working on for all this time. And I guess in the immediate aftermath, I went into kind of I guess also looking after Jodie was a help. She was physically unwell. Okay, I couldn't help her medically, but the fact that she couldn't do much for herself meant I could, and it's a negative that she couldn't. It made her life worse.
Mm.
But for me, there was a positive there that I could go, and if it was just going to the shops or going to get her something to eat or going home to get some fresh clothes for her, just there was something to be useful for. And then we came out of hospital, and actually the challenging part for me was we came out of hospital the week before the Christmas week, so like the 17th of December or something. And that week, no one really expected anything of us. It was our first week at home, so we could kind of sit, get our bearings, make sure Jodie was well. I kind of came and did a little bit of stuff at the studio. Then it was Christmas week when nobody expects anything. Like you're just at home. And to be honest, that was probably that week and the week then into New Year and things was probably the worst time out of it all. I was staying up late. I wouldn't say I was drinking to get drunk or forget, but I was having 2 or 3 beers every night. It wasn't setting any plans for the following day. Didn't need to get up. So I was lying in bed till 11, going to bed at 3 a.m., watching crap on TV, scrolling my phone, just existing almost.
Yeah.
And obviously trying to look after each other with Jodie and I. And then the 3rd of January came, which is when we reopened the studio after Christmas. And that, although that felt amazing at the time, what I didn't realize, and with a lot of self-reflection, from then until about the end of February, I just went hard with work. I didn't neglect Jodie, but Jodie heals very privately, even from me. That's who she is, and she has an incredible strength to do that. But I just was like, my way I can do things is run the business, keep money coming in, keep members happy, keep life going forward. And I'd worked really hard, and I'd work, and at the weekends I ended up finding a reason and almost going, I've worked hard all week. I don't really want to. I'd set myself a goal at the beginning of the year. I'm not going to drink at home.
Yeah.
Because I kind of recognized that was maybe something. So I was just going to the pub, sometimes with Jodie, sometimes with friends, watching the rugby or watching the football. And I was finding that then I was kind of going there at Saturday lunchtime, having a few drinks, never getting crazy drunk, but having a few drinks. Then Sunday was written off, mental health not great on Sunday. And then I was hard at it again from Monday. And it kind of came to a point where I let a friend down who I was supposed to go and watch football with, my team, Tottenham, and I got drunk the night before, didn't go. And that was a moment for me. I went, wow, like, stop. Like, this isn't you. This isn't who you are. You don't let your friends down. I love football. Sadly, I support Tottenham, but I love football. And to not go to that, to not go down to the stadium and watch a game with my friend, like that was like the moment. I just said, okay, let's reset. I'm not gonna have a drink for a while. I'm gonna slow down a little bit. I'm gonna kind of maybe, I hate it sounds a bit wishy-washy, but kind of sit with the feelings a little bit, maybe rather than trying to mask them with work, just trying to understand how I'm feeling. So I journaled a bit more deeply. I spoke to people a bit more about it. All the kind of conversations I had previously were very superficial, like, yeah, we're okay. Yeah, it's sad, kind of the normal stuff. And I've never had any grief in my life. Like, I lost my grandparents, but they went a little bit early, but you expect your grandparents to go at some point. I've got my parents, I've got my brothers. And so this was my first experience with grief, really, properly. And I kind of what I came to realize, and it was an interesting one for me, is whenever I read anything about grief or spoke to anyone about grief, it was always about memories. Think of the good times. And I don't have any. I don't have any. All I've got is this void, because the second you become pregnant, and anyone who's got a child or who has lost a child or anything will know, the second you become pregnant, you go into the mode of life's going to be different. What school are they going to go to? What are these memories we're going to create? Are we going to have a boy or a girl? Are they going to like football? Are they going to be a ballet dancer? What are they going to do? And I had all of that torn away from me. And all I could sit there was thinking, going, my girl, we didn't know we were having a girl, but my girl could have been the captain of the Lionesses. She could have been the first woman in space. She could have been the woman who found the cure for cancer, and she never even got the chance.
Yeah.
And something clicked with me then, because I kept saying, I'm not a dad. I fathered a child. I'm not a dad. Jodie was a mum from the second we conceived. She was doing what a mum does, growing the baby, keeping it safe, looking after herself so the baby was growing and things. And I wasn't a dad. I was helping. I was making sure Jodie was comfortable. I was doing what I could, but I wasn't a dad. And everybody kept saying to me, "You are, because Ada was born." And I said, "I'm not." And I think what happened was then I thought, right, the charity, the foundation, the stuff I can do to raise money for the foundation, that's my way of being a dad. That's the only way I can be a dad. And I know, I mean, I don't believe in, I don't want to go down this route, I guess, but I don't believe in anything to do with heaven or anything like that. To me, Ada was here, and all that's left of her is her energy, her spirit, something that drives me forward. has brought me close to other people, has brought other people on the mission and got other people doing fundraising and making life better at the hospital for families. And that moment kind of clicked in about March last year. And I thought, right, what I'm doing right now, I'm definitely not being a dad. I'm just being a bloke who's not really coping very well. And we signed up to do, well, we said we do the Three Peaks, and then which was kind of, we actually failed that due to weather. We had to abandon after Scar fell, and we went and did Snowdon. I took 30 friends and members and supporters of the charity up Snowdon in June, which was amazing. And no, sorry, in August, sorry. Excuse me. And then I decided we've got a hill near us called the Wrekin. It's quite famous in our local area. It's about 400 meters from top to bottom, and it's a great place outdoors. You know, everybody around here goes, I'd either love to be able to climb the Wrekin or they go and do it for a walk. It's got beautiful views. And I also signed up for Everest Base Camp at the same time. So, right, these are going to be my things this year to raise money. I want to raise £10,000 as a start. And I was really determined that Ada's Foundation wasn't just going to be a fundraising event. It was going to be charity, and I want it to go nationwide. I want Ada's name to be everywhere. And so the Wrekin, I said, well, 20 times up and down the Wrekin is about the height of Everest. And also it's 89 kilometers, which 89 families, including us, used the bereavement suite in 2022. 89 families lost a baby after 18 weeks or 16 weeks. And so to me, that was kind of cool. And I don't think I realized how tough it was going to be. It was just like, it's the Wrekin. I can go and do it. And by the time we did it, I'd done it 3 times back to back. That's the most I'd done. Matt Brindley, who's a friend of mine, said, "Can I do it with you?" And we practiced it once together. We went up twice, on the same day, and then we just went and did it. And actually, I learned a whole load of lessons from doing it. It took us 25 hours instead of 24. It was about 20,000 foot of climbing, I think, in total. 89 kilometers. That's about 60 miles almost, I think. 55,
you said
miles.
it like mile. I believe that you kind of, it's one of those events, and I would be someone that does that. It's like I design these events, but I go in with uninformed optimism, because if I knew exactly what I was going to get myself into, I'd really talk myself out again doing it.
Exactly, and I think for me, one of the things was I've always had this label jokingly amongst family and kind of some friends, and always kind of lived up to it, I guess, where my mum joked with me, often joked when I was like a kid, about things like cleaning my room. And I was like, I was going to do it. And my mum always said, you're going to have the words on your gravestone, I was gonna. So you're always going to do something, and you're full of great ideas. And I am an ideas person, definitely more than an execution person a lot of the time. And so this was the first thing I really did. I actually did what I said I was going to do properly, as a physical challenge. It was horrible. It was tough. My knee, I got quite bad bursitis in my knee and tendonitis. Like the way up was the recovery. The way down was the horrible part. And the first 7 that we did took us an average of 57 minutes each to get up and down. The last one, walking down, took me an hour and 50 just to get down. That's kind of how kind of tough it got through the night. And it was, I'd be lying if I said like Ada took me up there. I was cursing her, don't get me wrong. I was like, if you were here, I wouldn't be doing this. I'd be just having cuddles and like playing on a play mat at home or something like that. And I'd be lying. What actually got me through was the fact that I'd said I was going to do it. Loads of people had sponsored us. It got in the local papers, but it was in my daughter's name. So it wasn't her memory as such, but like I told myself for 9 months from when Ada was born to when I did that, you're not really a dad. You're not really a dad. And I told myself this was a way to be a dad. This was a way to keep Ada's legacy, spread her name around, like all the stuff she couldn't do because she wasn't here. I can spread that energy around, and that's what made me finish it. That's what got me. That's where I dug deep during those darker times, during those moments where I was like, I can't do this. It hurts too much. Yeah.
Well, you gotta. I suppose there's another way. I don't know if you've ever thought of it like this. because you said like you didn't feel like you were a dad, and I think that's possibly normal because you never got to experience all the things and the cuddles
Mm,
and like the
yeah,
swimming lessons and all that.
yeah,
But because of something that's so heartbreaking to happen to you and your wife, um, you were able to use your daughter to impact the world bigger than you ever thought you could. And I
yeah.
think that's you would trade that in a heartbeat,
Of course.
but obviously the situation is not that. So now you get to not only impact the world, but impact so many families by being the dad that you would have been.
Yeah, yeah,
Like so what was in you to be the father is now expressed across families throughout,
yeah.
as you say, the United Kingdom. And I
It's
suppose it's like that. I think sometimes really, really bad things happen out of that. Something amazing happens.
I agree.
And it's you never known you never want anyone to go through what going through.
No.
You experience that, but when it does happen, you have that switch in you, that thought process. Well, what will I do now? Will I
Yeah.
do nothing, or will I do like? Yeah, I know you said you don't believe in it, like you wouldn't be a guy about heaven and stuff like that, but she would be proud of you today to see what you're doing, kind of thing. I
If she
think
was
that's
here, she would
huge.
be proud of her dad. Yeah,
Yeah,
and that actually means a lot to me when I reflect and I will say kind of with that, I do believe that everybody and everything has an energy. We all have an energy, and when we go, so Ada's energy, um, it is still around me. Like it drives some of my decisions. It drives some of my probably subconscious decisions as well. Not just the ones like I'm going to do this or I'm going to do that. And um, I have learned an awful lot over this last 5 or 6 years about impact. But one of the big things for me as well was like from an acceptance point of view, I guess, because a lot of people talk about grief and the difficulty to accept things, and I accepted it right from the beginning.
yeah,
I just knew I'm not going to fight with reality. Like it's happened. I was very fortunate. I've got a guy in my life who's, I guess, a bit of a mentor to me, as well as I do business with him as well. Who on the day it happened, I messaged him, and he's got 5 children, and he just said, "I cannot comprehend what you're going through. I just can't comprehend it." And I said, "Well, what I don't understand is everybody says what you put out in the universe, you get back." And I was like, even my business helps people. Like I believe I'm a good guy. I give a lot. I go without. Sometimes I'll allow people to keep training here when they've lost their job because I don't want to see them lose their health and fitness as well as the stress of losing a job, all kind of stuff like that. So why me? Like why me? It's not fair. And he just said back to me, he said, "Look, you're probably going to hate me for this, but it's not about fair. Life happens. Humans try and attach a meaning to everything that happens, and all you're doing is trying to attach a meaning that like you're good, therefore good things should happen." He
yeah,
says, "It's nature. A really bad thing happened." He said, "You've now got a choice. You can react." Well, he said, "You haven't got a choice. You will react.
yeah,
Your choice is how you react." And hearing that, I think really early on, the day Ada was born and died, that was massive. And I only realized that now,
yeah.
but that was huge because I could have, and I have a real habit in the past of wallowing, like almost loving sympathy and wanting
Yes.
sympathy. And I could have really easily gone down that. Don't get me wrong. The love people showed, the care people showed, the wouldn't go as far as saying it's attention. I don't mean that, but the attentiveness probably is the right word that people showed blew me away, and I'm forever grateful for it. But it didn't allow me to wallow for too long because fighting with reality, like the world wasn't going to stop for me.
Yes.
My customers, my members were exceptionally understanding. My team were unbelievable. But as I said in the very first time I told everybody and kind of made an announcement to our members that what had happened, I said, look, this is still a business and a community. The world can't stop. Yes, we might go a little slower. Yes, I might not be myself, but we've got to keep going. And to be honest, that's what kept me going up that hill. I was
Yeah.
what I've got the choice. I can either go home and sit there going, I wish I'd finished it, or I
Finish it.
can finish it and deal with whatever the pain is afterwards. And the
Yeah.
pain was pretty bad. Like I'm not going to lie. and actually that stood me in really good stead because kind of good news. We fell pregnant pretty much straight after we realized straight after that event.
Yeah.
So I didn't do base camp because my knee injury and also us being pregnant, I didn't want to go away, but my knee, it was too
Yeah.
soon after that event. And on the 18th of March, we had a little boy. 10 weeks early, so he's still in hospital, but he's doing really
Yeah.
well. And again, all of those lessons and everything have helped me through the last month, where the doubt of like he's never been seriously ill. He was just very early.
Mm.
He's had a fight on his hands and he's doing amazing. And the traveling to and from the hospital, all the other stuff that goes on with like when you're a brand new parent, but you
Yes.
haven't got your baby there. Again, you haven't taken your baby home. That's kind of challenging. But all of the lessons I've learned, I believe, have just put me in the place where I am right now. By no
Yeah.
means perfect with it all, but I believe I've dealt with it a lot better. The uncertainty, the fear. Like I'm not going to lie, I drove to the hospital when in Birmingham it's about an hour from me. When Jodie said, "Stuart, you need to get here. Things are happening," and I was part of my head was going, "It's gonna happen again. It's gonna
Yeah.
happen again." And
And I think that's a normal reaction to have that.
yeah,
And it's something similar when my son was very ill, and in the hospital, and on the drive to it, as we were told it could be severe. It turned out not to be in the end. The drive up, your brain automatically. And I think your son name is it Albie.
I'll be
Albie, yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
how I want to go back to something first before I do. Sorry, I'll go back to that in a second. But before I do, how meeting Albie for the first time, holding him, what was that experience for you? Because you've been in a situation where it was more heartbreaking.
Mm.
How was it now to hold Albie? Like, how did it feel?
Yeah, well, it was interesting because we went in and Jodie had a cesarean, not an emergency, but not planned, obviously, because it was very
Yeah,
early. And one of the things, and this has taught me a really great lesson, probably for myself. One of the things at the hospital were great at because we didn't know any. We knew a lot of the staff at our hospital, but we were over in Birmingham just because of a bed space kind of
yeah,
situation. And the staff there explained everything. Like, this is what we're going to do when the baby's born because they're premature. This is what we do. Don't worry if you see this. This is what we'll do. This is the choices you've got. Like, do you want us to show him or her to you? Do you want us to shout over whether you've had a boy or a girl? Like, et cetera, et cetera. And that's taught me very much like just give people the information. Just give people information because it helps. It really does. So that helped. And then we didn't know we were having a boy or a girl. We just assumed we were having a girl. I don't know why. Maybe because Ada was a girl. I don't know. And they said you've got a little boy, and we both just looked at each other and thought we haven't even thought of a name, man. Like what? And it was kind of this like feeling of it was a really weird emotion of thank God, like he's here, he's safe. They said he's breathing. Like they put him in a little plastic bag, they put a thing on his nose, etc. And then they let him hold us. And
yeah,
still, as I held him with Jodie lying next to me, like still being sewn up and all this kind of stuff, it's crazy. As I held him, I just felt this amazing like phew. And then Jodie said, "Don't let him out of your sight. Follow the neonatal team. Go to where he is." So I kind of got up, and then I'm thinking, "Oh God, he's seriously ill. Like he's premature. Like he's 10 weeks premature." And then there's like those moments of, "Oh God, like this isn't as exciting as it could have been. Like what happens if something goes wrong?" And
mm,
immediately in that moment, I was like, I felt. Well, I don't say immediately. When I saw he was okay, and then I came back towards Jodie where she was in recovery, there was a moment I was like of almost immense gratitude that Ada never took a breath because I thought if she'd have breathed and I'd have held her, we
wouldn't have
did
worked.
hold her, but as she was alive and like I don't know if I'd have managed and coped. Like if you said to me right now, and I know I've got like let's say I live to 80 and Albie's 40. I've got 40 years of like my mum still texts me now. Did you get there okay?
Yeah,
And things. So there's 40 years of worry, 50 years of worry ahead of me, hopefully. But if somebody took Albie away from me now, like I don't know, like it's just very different. Like it's not about loving less or more, but I
it's
never
just a
got to
different.
know Ada. So you're not taking away something that I have, you're taking away
Mm,
something that I could have had. And without it, and that's been a really weird emotion. Like when you go into those little dark places, like he was a little bit unwell at the back end of last week, and you know, Jodie stayed in hospital with him. I stayed at home. We were in the hospital close to us now, so that's great. I've been unwell, so I haven't been wanting to go near him,
yeah,
and it's again that thing of like before I was so like, oh, you know what, I've just got a cough, I've just got a cold, like I could be around people. I never understood that, and again, don't go down this rabbit hole, but too much around COVID about being too careful. Like, and then when it's your boy, and I think like one cough could
Yeah.
make him seriously ill. I'm like, wow, this is, and I drove away. It's a weird one. Last little point about this. I drove away from the hospital on the Monday night that he was born, and I hadn't held him, other than wrapped up in that blanket at the beginning. We'd not, our skin hadn't touched.
Yeah.
Jodie got a little bit of skin to skin because she had to go up to recovery. He was in an incubator, etc. And I drove home that night. It's about an hour. It was like 1 o'clock in the morning, and I was like, this is weird. Every dad I've ever met has told me about this unbelievable love that you feel when your child is born. And I thought to myself, like, I felt more love when Ada was born and she wasn't breathing. She was just like a body in my hands. Um, am I weird? Am I like a psychopath? Like I was questioning. I was like, what the hell is this? And the next day I went in and I didn't tell anybody this obviously at the time. I was like, right, deal with these emotions, see what's going on. And I held him for the first time and had skin to skin. The next night, that next day when I'd done that, I drove home in tears the whole way. Like, oh my God, I'm not seeing him. I want to be back with him.
Yeah.
Like, this is the love that everybody talked about. And again, it's about trying that taught me this of just try and keep as neutral as possible. Like, don't panic that I didn't feel that love. Don't panic that like I'm not with him. Just deal with what's in front of you. And that really helped us through the Reekin challenge and then through the pregnancy and now through this time where he's still in hospital. We've possibly got another 6 weeks of him being in hospital. And Jodie and I made the decision. I'm the positive one of the two of us. Jodie's the negative. We balance quite well. Jodie sees like the kind of pessimism in a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm probably a little bit over optimistic. She slows me down from making a lot of rash decisions, and I probably bring her up from being a bit sad and down. And when we kind of make a good team like that. But one of the things that I really we really kind of made the decision on, and we communicate really well actually, is we can only take it a day at a time. Because when we lost a baby at 12 weeks, with the second pregnancy with Ada, when we got to 12 weeks, we're like, right, cool, we're in the clear. And then at 20 weeks, excuse me, at 20 weeks, we're like, it's gone wrong. So through Albie's pregnancy, it was just like, right, what's the next little milestone? Okay, let's get to 12 weeks. Let's get to this scan. Let's get to we lost both of our babies on the 11th of December. Crazy. I don't like 3 years apart. So get to the 11th of December. That's the next one. Yeah. Then it was like, right, we've never been pregnant at Christmas. Right, cool. Let's take it to Christmas. Never been having a baby this year. So we get to the new year. Then it was like, the 21 and 2 milestone, which is when Ada was actually born. And then it was just taking each step. And that's the same now. Like we don't get too excited when he has a great day. We don't get kind of too upset if we can help it when he doesn't have such a good day. And that again, I remember doing that Reeking challenge, and I got a message from Paul Morton. He said, Stu, he said, the only advice I can give you is one foot in front of the other forever. And that's kind of the mantra now. Just keep putting one foot in front of the other. Don't think about the pain or the elation. Like I tried to stop picturing myself at the top of the hill the last time because it was so far away. I hadn't even got up that little bit of the next turn on the hill yet. And I still had 7 more to do after that. And I think that's really served me well. And it, again, is probably a gift from Ada, if you want to call it that, or Ada's energy, or whatever you want to call it, that's really helped me with maybe building resilience and forging that kind of mental strength to.
Well, I think that one of the things that you mentioned, you touched on, was it's that quickness to back to reality. And you mentioned you had a friend who was pretty much blunt with you, and I think we all need that person in our lives that's going to be like, here's the facts, here's the cold hard facts, and you can attach what you want to it, but this is reality, and you have to make the decision of how you're going to conduct yourself moving forward. I think we all need someone like that, because otherwise, it's like you said, it's very easy to go down that rabbit hole of the poor me, and it's not only about you, because there's more than one person in the situation. And then, like you said, when Albie was born, like I had something similar. As like Susan, we had to have an emergency C-section, and they literally gave me my son for 40 minutes, and I was holding this thing who wouldn't open his eye, his right eye wouldn't open, so I was freaking out. Something wrong with my child. All of these things, and all like for 40 minutes left in a room holding a baby, and no one was near me. And I had to get up and go, hey, what's going on? And they were like, oh, we forgot. And I was like, oh, yeah, come on in, you can come in to my wife Susan, and we can do everything we normally do. But like for this 40 minutes, my brain didn't go from just being this immense, like you said, like this all pure, like love. It was like, oh my God.
Yeah. Mm.
what can happen? All the things that could go wrong, everything. What if I drop them? Isn't
Yeah.
stuff? Well, they just lose for 40 minutes. I was freaking out over that. I was like, there's something wrong with my
Yeah.
child's eye.
Mm.
But all those, I don't, I'm sure women go through it too, but all those thoughts in my head, um, am I going to be good enough? He needs me to be. What if he doesn't make friends? What if he's bad at school? Like all those thoughts in a blink
Yep.
of like it's a moment just all explode into your brain.
Some of them are 10
Then
years ahead. Some of them aren't even like the here and now. It's like keeping breathing is number one. But then you're thinking about, yeah, friends.
yeah,
Is he going to be able to play sport or whatever these things are? And actually, when we say about my friend and mentor saying those words to me, and actually it has made me think and probably changed me a little bit as a person that some we're in today's society, and again, I don't want to kind of make this about, you know, things being different in our day or anything like that. But and I've been guilty of this before, like that. I've heard the term toxic positivity, but of being like this positive, come on. And I think sometimes as a coach, you have that almost in you, like a cheerleader almost, and you're like, come on, it's going to be okay, or you're going to do amazing or whatever. And actually, I think one of the greatest forms of compassion shown to me, and I was blown away by the support I got, was that person being really quite, it wasn't harsh, it was blunt. It came from a place of true love. I've known this person for almost 10 years. He's got my back. I would never
yeah,
doubt that. Um, uh, but it was probably the biggest form of compassion that could have been shown. But
yeah,
it's not the traditional kind of arm around the shoulder, you'll be okay.
yeah,
And again, that's taught me a lesson that sometimes you almost just need to be hit in the face with a bit of reality and like, yeah, actually, Stuart, like, why would the universe be against you? Like, how insignificant am I in the universe? Like,
yeah,
what kind of nonsense am I talking? But that's what we do. I've attached that meaning of like, well, it's unfair. Why me? Well, 89 other people went through it, or
yeah.
88 other people went through it that year just in our hospital, let alone around the world and all the other terrible things that happen. People who lose children that are like 5 years old and they've got to know them for 5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. It
And
was just,
I think everyone's situation is, and you could take like, someone that had a miscarriage would be the thing that comes from that, and someone who loses like you go you never bury your own, you never want to bury your own child, that kind of thing. That's
yeah.
a horrible thing to like, and I think we all like you said, it was 88 other people that happened to, and they're all going through the same thing, and that whole thing. There's nothing overly special about happening because it's happening all over the world to many people. And then the question that always comes back is why did it happen to me? And it's just something that, again, I heard it before. I can't remember where I heard it. Is like the reason why something bad happens. Now, this is attaching something to it, so it probably doesn't really make too much sense. It's so that you can like you. It then gave you the positivity or the action. Go do something that will help those other 88 people or those other hundreds of like how many people
Yeah.
per year that go through that.
Mm.
And that is like I said, it's a great gift to then have because you you are then helping rather than just being the statistic.
Yeah. And I think what's interesting about that as well, and I say to people listening who maybe are going through a hard time or who have had hard times, I don't believe that Ada unlocked anything in me that wasn't already there.
Yeah,
She was just the key to unlocking it. And again, that's helped me try and, I don't mean seeing positives and negatives because it's terrible. Like it's the worst thing that's likely going to happen to me. Certainly the worst thing that's ever happened to me in 41
yeah,
years of life. Yeah. But there are always positives. Even if you can't spin something into a positive, there are always positives. And one, like it helped me through the pregnancy of Albie. It helped Jodie through that. Two, I've met some amazing people, like the two bereavement midwives, the couple that we met had the same idea about these support boxes. Like they're people I'll know forever now. They're
yeah,
people who I have a special bond with. The bereavement midwives, because they were clinical and clean and came into the hospital, they were amongst the first people that met Albie when we came back to Telford.
yeah,
Like that's a gift that she's brought me. And then this kind of resilience and strength and the idea that, I can probably get through anything that's thrown at me. Well, not saying it won't be hard. one day I'm going to lose my parents, and who I'm super close with. I've got brothers who are younger than me. I've got nephews, and bad things are gonna happen. They always do.
Yeah.
But Ada certainly unlocked a resilience and a strength in me, and an endurance, maybe a mental endurance that I never knew I had, and I didn't think I had, but I must have had it there. It doesn't just magic out of thin air. I must have had it there, and it just got unlocked by.
Well, I think most people do have something like that, and it is whether it gets unlocked or not, the situation, and does it can it unlock it, and if it does, it can create a better person. I'm sure there's people that's created a worse person because they just can't function because they can't
Yeah.
process the situation. But so like you say, your parents and like my parents would be the same. Like that's an eventuality that they will eventually die. Like and that's for everyone. But I think we grow up knowing that people older than us, like you lose your grandparents first, and then eventually
Yeah.
it'll be your parents, and then it'll be friends, you know. But the hardest thing is the people younger than you, like your children or people like that's the one I think that we're never really prepared for because we know that people older than us it's happening,
Yeah.
but younger than us it's not.
And as we get older, we can feel the wheels of kind of age and
Yeah,
our thoughts about mortality, and we don't feel quite as invincible as maybe we did when we were 15 or 20 or whatever. And I think, but I also think it shows. I believe it creates, and I think again, this has become a bit of a superpower for me. It creates a vulnerability. These things happening create a vulnerability, and again, I've talked about what happened. I've been really fine sharing my feelings
mm,
and with people I do know and now through things like this, people I don't know. Um and and I believe vulnerability is seen as a weakness often. And actually it's not because my vulnerability, I've had people say to me who I knew for years before what happened with Ada, who said to me, the same thing happened to us. Thank you for talking about it, because I
yeah,
never have. And I'm like, wow, I would never have known. And I admire them for that strength and resilience and things that they've got. And I would never have known they had that. But me being vulnerable has maybe allowed them to grieve a little better or to remember their child in a
yeah.
more accepting light or something like that. And again, I believe more people should be more vulnerable. We should talk more. We should share what we feel more.
I agree with that because I only this conversation only if it was last week was exact conversation on is that we are being vulnerable is not a weakness. It's a
No, not at
necessary
all.
strength, and especially for men. And I would be someone that, and if you talk to like my brother and sister call, and this is like they call me the cyborg because I don't funerals. I don't. It can be sad. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. I don't know why it doesn't happen. Someone says it's deep seated stuff. I get very happy. I get joyous. I get sad. I get angry. I get all things. But certainly, then I, I'd be called a hypocrite for saying that being vulnerable and speaking is something that I would consider a strength in men. And we're in a time where men, it's hard for, I think it's actually getting harder for men to talk because it's just one of those things like you need to either man up or no one wants to hear from the man, and
Mhm.
so no matter what angle you're looking at it's kind of well, and it's not me
Yes.
going through these things,
It
but it
also
is you
feels
going
like
through these things.
I'm like we're making it worse by bringing the mood down or the joy.
Yeah,
And actually, on the point of crying, like I don't, I don't believe. I'm not saying this is the point you're making, but I don't believe that crying necessarily is the sign of being vulnerable either. Like people can be really vulnerable just by saying how almost how they're dealing with something.
yeah,
Like if I spoke to somebody and said, like, can you tell me how you appear so strong and like emotional? And they're explaining that to me is vulnerability. I believe vulnerability is such a dirty word almost, especially amongst men. And actually, it's just sharing how we feel.
yeah,
Because to be honest, one of the things that I think would save probably a load of blokes' lives is if they just knew other people felt that way. when what happened with us, when Ada, I cried. I cried
Mm.
in front of people. I was also very cyborg like in front of people. I was very positive about some things. I was, Jodie's probably cried in front of me 3 or 4 times in the 10 years we've known each other. She's
Yeah.
a cry in the car, cry in the shower, cry on the stairs when I'm not there kind of person. That's her. Um, and I kind of it was May. I remember it really well. It was May. It was an afternoon in the week on a Friday afternoon. Sorry, and we just started to have enough money to then start to buy the stuff for these boxes. And I contacted the hospital, said, "Look, we're doing this." They knew we were doing it, but we're ready to buy some boxes. They said, "Right, speak to these guys, search them on Facebook. They're already doing the same thing." And I messaged this page, Love from George, and a guy called Ben messaged me back. And we was exchanging messages. Said, "Look, should we just jump on the phone so we can sort this out kind of quick?" And we were on
Yeah.
the phone for an hour and a half, and all we talked about was what happened with him and what happened with us. And I got off the phone and I cried for half an hour on my own in the
Yeah.
house, and I wasn't even sad. It was just somebody got me. Somebody knew. Everyone had been really sympathetic. Everyone had been kind of, yeah, that must be awful. But this guy, even if we hadn't become friends afterwards, which we are now,
Yeah.
this guy knew exactly what I'd been through. Our babies were stillborn on the same like period of gestation. He's a bit younger than me, but we're both professionals. We're both
Yeah.
busy. We're both, and and he got it. And that just to me, I think if more people were happy to speak about how they felt to other people who maybe weren't doing so great, we'd all realize that we've pretty much all got the same sort of insecurities. We've got the same vulnerabilities. We've got the same weird sense of humor. We've got, and we're all pretty similar. Yeah, we have
Yeah.
our differences, but we're not weird for not feeling love for our child on the day they're born. We're not, we're not weird for feeling like a sense of overwhelm, like, oh my word, I've got to keep this child alive. Or we all get a bit overwhelmed with work or feel like sometimes we're not good enough, even though we're doing amazing things in our community or in our family lives. And I just think, like you say, that vulnerability, that ability just to say, this is how I feel, good or
Mm.
bad, sad or happy, this is how I feel. Because again, I don't know about you. Sometimes I feel bad. Like after Aiden was born, there was sometimes where I was really happy. Like I was watching Tottenham and they won, and I was like over the moon and cheering
Yeah.
and like, oh, should I be doing this? Like I've lost my daughter, and I thought I was weird for
Yeah.
being happy. And then I read a bit about grief and I spoke to the people, and they're like, no, you can still have joyous moments in times of sadness. And I think again, the more we talk, the more men will understand that we're all kind of, I won't say we're all in this together, but we're all traveling the similar path.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
And we're all going through like similar things. And all the degree of the severity of what's happening in your life. But
yeah,
I do believe that something was said to me when we lost. So our the first miscarriage was tough on both of us, very tough on my wife. Second one, my wife kind of brushed it off a lot. Well, not brushed it off, but kind of processed a lot quicker. I couldn't because we were told, we seen the heartbeat. We went for an early scan. I physically looked at the beat, and no, it wasn't a viable embryo. Within 2 weeks, I was told, but I was like, but there was a heartbeat. She goes, yeah, no, if it was, it's no longer. So it never actually became something. And I was like, but like I seen it.
yeah.
I seen it something.
It had a heartbeat. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And someone mentioned to me on a phone call, and they were just trying to be nice because, oh, look, at these things happen. We all go through it. It was never going to be a baby, so it wasn't anything. Like that hurt. Like that really hurt then. And I quickly got off the phone because I got angry because like you don't get it. Like I was allowed to have my thing,
Mhm.
and I was allowed because what I said, when something didn't happen, it was tough to digest.
Mm.
But again, that was my heartbreak there. Like you said, we're all going through something. We're on the similar journeys. They're all different and entwined in different ways, but having the ability to express it and deal with it, and then like you say, find the strength in something that was so horrible, so hard, is huge, and it builds your resilience. And sure, look, you've got a beautiful boy now who's striving in the right place where they need to be. Your
Yeah,
wife's doing well. You have good business. You're like me, taking on stupid challenges for
yeah,
midlife crisis stuff. I don't know.
yeah, yeah. That's probably
No,
what it
that's
is.
what my wife calls it.
Yeah,
So see, you did the thing. I know you did a marathon there as well. Was that this year you did the marathon or last year?
yeah. So I signed up when I finished the challenge. I said, right, it's in 2024. I need to do something. Like I need to do something to raise money. And my belief was, I always said I wasn't a massive fan of going for a walk. Like
Yeah.
I like to walk somewhere, but going for a walk. So that's one of the reasons why I said about the Three Peaks and the Wrekin, because for me, if I do something that I know people think I don't enjoy, I'll probably raise more money because
Yes.
people are going to go, you know what, he hates that. So I don't enjoy running. I never have enjoyed running. Like I'll do a 5K here and there, but if I run, it's chasing a football or like
Yeah.
that. That's why I run. So I thought, right, well, a marathon. That's got to be the next thing. So I signed up for the Edinburgh Marathon, which is in May, bank holiday, the second bank holiday in May this year, and realised that um, that was when the baby was due. So I thought, right, okay, I'll bring it forward, and I signed up for the Stratford Marathon, which is 21st of April, this Sunday. And I started my training plan in January, and it was all right. I wasn't enjoying it massively. I enjoyed a couple of the runs I went on with other people.
Yeah.
And I've always been a team sport person. I played rugby at school. I play football. Um, I do group exercise. I don't go to the gym on my own. That's not my thing. I do my group sessions and I join in the sessions that I'm not coaching. And I kind of got about 7 weeks into the training plan, like third week of February, and I just wasn't enjoying it. Like
Yeah.
it's taken a long time. Running does. Like takes a long time when you've got to do your longer runs. Then there's a recovery. It was stopping me doing like the hit stuff I enjoy doing. I wasn't enjoying football as much because I was scared of getting an injury.
Yeah.
And I was just kind of like, I've got probably 10 to 12 weeks till my life changes forever. Do I want to spend 6 or 7 more weeks doing something I really don't enjoy? And that's how I justified not doing it. So I told a couple of people, told Jody, told a couple of friends. I went in my accountability group. This was a Thursday night.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm not doing it. And probably half the group said, yeah, you're making the right decision. Making the right decision. Then the other half, and I'm going to name one man because if he does listen to this, he was a key part of it. Gary O'Mahony in our
Yeah.
he's one of Paul's clients as well. He said, "You told me when you finished the Wrekin that you do what you said you do now, and now you're not. You didn't do Everest. You're not doing this." I was like, right, okay. I won't
Fair
say
enough.
what words I said. And I went to bed that night and I was like, right, okay. I woke up on the Friday morning and I thought, do you know what? Just because I'm not doing this, just because I don't want to do 6 or 7 weeks of training, I'm going to get some food. I'm going to do a little bit of research on Google Maps. And on the Saturday morning, I got up and I just ran a marathon around my local area.
Yeah.
It took me 5 hours, 40 minutes. It wasn't, I'm never going to be a fast runner. And I had to do what I said I'd do. And I hadn't even started raising money at that point. I just put the link out afterwards. I probably raised about another £500, which I'm super grateful for. Um, and again, that the big lesson for that for me was, um, you can do something optimally, you can
Yes.
train, you can do something, or you can just do something because you said you would. Now, probably did I risk injury? Did I risk like hurting myself? Could something have gone wrong? Yeah, but could something have gone wrong if I'd have trained for another 6 or 7 weeks?
Yes.
Could I have stepped off a curb and twisted my ankle? Could I have had an undetected heart problem that I didn't know? Yeah, all of these thoughts go through your head when you're doing these endurance things. And I also thought to myself, it's only half of what I did the Wrekin, and like it's flat, so can't be that hard. It wasn't enjoyable, that enjoyable. What was amazing was my mum. My mum's like 62 years. I'm going to go 62. I'm not going to, yeah, 62. 62 years old. If she listens to this, she's going to kill me for not knowing her age. But 62 years old, and she came around the last 10 miles with me, which is the furthest she's ever run. She's super fit. A cancer survivor. She had cancer last year and came and did it with me. And again, afterwards, I sat and reflected. I was like, I actually preferred the fact my mum ran the last 10 miles of a marathon with me. If I'd have done that in Stratford, she would have maybe been able to watch me at the finish line. Or
Yeah.
she, and again, moments like, again, I just took the good bits out of it. I'm now a marathon runner. Um, it wasn't an organized one. I probably won't do another one. But again,
I,
it
I
showed
like
me
I,
the depth of
I like
in
that
like
idea.
of what you can achieve if you just sometimes you just have to go and do it. Like you
Yeah.
just have to not think of all the things that could go wrong because half of them are made up in your head anyway. The other
Yeah.
half are unlikely to happen. And you know what? If I'd have set up and done a mile and my calf would have gone, I'd have just stopped. I could try
Yeah.
it again another time. Like maybe sometimes when these big grief things happen to us, I'm not a believer about like comparing grief. Whose is worse? Who's a, like what was a losing my child? Somebody who like gets £100 parking fine and has no money in the bank, that could feel like as big a problem
Yeah.
as losing a baby at that point in your life. You don't know where people are. But for me, sometimes like there is no right wrong answer how to do. You've just got to take a bit of action and go do it.
I like that idea of just completing tasks. And people say they have to sign up to something, and I've done a couple of events where I've just created them. And I'm
Yeah,
gonna do this. Like, why are you doing that? Like, it, hard. It looks uncomfortable, and I just want to see what's possible. And I'm not trying to do it. It's like what I say to. We have a little group, me and my mates that do neat things, and so like we just go. It's just completing the task
yeah,
because I don't want to. I don't want to spend 5 days, 6 days a week training for running.
yeah,
I want to
absolutely.
do the bare minimum and be able to do it without messing myself up. I trained for a marathon there in March, and I ended up having to pull out 25K in because of my hip.
Yes, yeah, yep, yep,
So like,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
trained for that, and I've done an ultra with very little training,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I just ran around. And literally, there's a 5K loop around outside my building, and I did that 10 times.
There you go. Yeah, and do you not think as well
So
one of the things that came to me with the second event? So when I did the Reeking, like I kind of a little bit, and I don't know if it's just my personality how I was. I kind of basked in that for a little bit. I was like, I've done this amazing thing. Like I'm pretty proud of myself. I'm pretty good. And what became really apparent to me, and I learned this lesson with the marathon, is why I didn't make it into too big a thing kind of at the time. I was like, just go and do it. I didn't tell anyone I was doing it other than Jodie. Like I
yeah.
literally did. No one knew. When I rang my mum 16 miles in, I was like, "Do you want to come and do the last 10 miles?" She was like, "What do you mean you're running a marathon?" And then I just posted the Strava into the accountability group and said, "Well, don't doubt me," kind of thing, or something along those lines, or is that good enough, or whatever. But actually, what I realised on a kind of serious note is, um, the the high wears off pretty quickly,
Yes.
and also I don't say nobody cares because people do care. People have supported me amazingly, but it's just another thing. Like losing Ada, it's just another thing that's happened. Like I can't walk around now going, do you know what? I don't need to do a workout today because I did a marathon in February. Like, yeah, there's a bit of recovery time and there's a bit of time to pat yourself on the back and go, cool, yeah, you did really well there. And what did you learn from it? And what were the positives? But
Mm.
like, no one cares now that I did a marathon in February.
Yeah. That's
Like,
because everyone has to get on with their life. Like they're
and
proud
like
of
my
you, they
body
like
weight
it,
doesn't
but
care.
you like they'll support you, they'll donate,
Yeah,
they'll do thing. But at the end of the day, very, very close net group of friends, like your accountability group and your family, people have to go back to work. The sun will set, the sun will
yep,
rise, and everything still has to
absolutely.
keep turning. And I would have the same thing that you do. I like as soon as it's over, I'm like, "Hmm,
Mm.
well,
And
that's
so
done."
I have a question for you then, because this is something I'm new to, like anything endurance, anything kind of big. And I don't need endurance. It doesn't always have to be endurance, I guess. So
Hmm.
I'm just in the process of setting this year's challenge. I had to be careful with this year's challenge, obviously, with having a baby, and we don't know when he's going to be out of hospital and everything else. And
Yeah.
there are certain elements of life that I wouldn't go say go on hold. They just, you have to be careful. You have to be, there's bigger things sometimes. But one of the things I've struggled with now is I know it's a different discipline. So I did this, I guess what you'd call the Recon was probably an ultra marathon, I guess you'd call it. If you want to call that 89 kilometers up and down a hill, probably a pretty extreme one. And then I did a marathon. And that almost feels like a backward step. Don't get me wrong, it was challenging, it was tough. And now I'm like, right, like I don't want to just go what's bigger and better because there's certain things, I have a business to run.
Yes.
I can't go and train full time to be an athlete. I'm not good enough at that to do that. This is charity and part time and fun, if you want to call it. And it's how do you find something that's more challenging sometimes? Because I feel like the Reek is probably the hardest thing I'm ever going to do physically. Like that
Yeah.
thing, I could go and do Everest Base Camp now. I've heard Paul say, seen hit that journey. I was booked to do it in October, and there's a different challenge with the oxygen and things, but it's 100 miles over like 12 days,
Yeah.
which to me, like I did 56 in one day. Um, but unless I actually go to the peak and the summit, which is like what 1 in 7 people die doing, which I'm not prepared to take that risk. It's like, how do you find that, or how do you turn something that maybe isn't as big into something big to get that juice going, to get something I've really struggled with?
I think it's so yeah, like so I first started with the 100 days of charity. Every day I did an exercise for 100 reps, and I did that for 100 days, and finishing off with a 100-kilometer walk, which was horrendous.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and then the next one was the ultra, 50 kilometers. Uh, and then I was like, well, I'm never going to run a marathon because I'm an ultra runner. And I was like, thinking about that. And then I the attempt of the marathon, which failed, which means I have to go back. But now we did a 9 hour endurance event where we had to do like rock walking, paddle boarding, cycling, hill
Yeah.
running, climb mountains, do all that stuff. And now we have a 24-hour event where we're gonna do an ultra run, ultra cycle, 500 push-ups, pull-ups, and a bunch of other like
Yeah. I've
crazy
seen.
stuff in
Yeah.
24 hours.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I don't know if I'm the right person to ask, but I don't think it needs to. And the funny thing is that you can do all these challenges and raise money. And you got these guys like running the length of the two brothers that are running the width of Australia. Like, and you're like, that's just like you have to keep getting bigger and better. You know, you probably make more money doing a table quiz at your local pub.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. 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 Yeah.
So it doesn't. I think that's more the challenge is more says more about just you looking for something to feed the. Like, I find that I need to be testing myself,
Hmm. Yep.
and it has to be something. And I always go, why just play golf? You just look for something to do.
Yeah.
Well, that would be boring for me. So I like I when my kids when I the day I die, people to say is trying to test himself.
Hmm. Hmm.
He was always willing to push and learn and fail and try again and do these crazy things. There's always something up with
Yeah.
Stephen. He
Yeah. Yeah.
always wants to do something, and that's rather than he was deep. He was always good crap in the pub every weekend for the last 40 years.
Yeah. 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 And I must.
So I don't
Sorry. Go
have
on.
an answer for you there, really.
No. I must admit, one of the things I've noticed is so Quarter four's goal was kind of to be trained for Everest, and that kind of stopped very quickly. And I did the mistake. I said, I'm going to aim for a weight. I'm going to aim to get myself to a certain weight, and my weight went up. It didn't go down. And first quarter this year was run the marathon, which I kind of did halfway through. But and then this quarter, I've been like, I feel I've got 6 charity football games to play in, but that's fun. Like I need to be
Yeah.
fit for them, but I don't need to be. We're not talking professional level. I don't need to be able to run a 10K in 45 minutes or anything to be fit for football. And that's already got me thinking, right, I need a challenge this year, and I'm just in the process of putting something together that involves the business and involves a couple of people to do that will require me to train. And I must admit, I do feel like I've gone backwards, not stood still, actually gone backwards when I've not had something that kind of, I think, will I actually be able to do it? That's the
Yeah.
key for me. That was with the Recon. I had no idea until I finished it that I'd be able to do it. Even on the last ascent, I was like, am I going to make it? Is my knee going to go? Like, am I, the marathon, I must admit, yeah, that was challenging. Like, maybe it wasn't the same as the Recon, but I was still like, have I got it in me? Because to me, the Recon, there was different people doing different legs. There
Yeah.
was always someone to talk to. There was quiet if I needed it. There was always a food stop. And the marathon was like, you just got to do it. Like it's not like
One step in
groups of
front of the other.
people. I've got no one cheering me on. No one knows I'm doing this. And that was that challenge. And now it's finding that thing, the next thing that's something to scare me a little bit or to make me doubt myself. Because I think again, what that's one of the things, and I don't know if this is all men, but most of the guys I know, most of the people I know actually, we're better when we're backed into a corner. We
Yeah.
just perform a little bit better. Whether it's adrenaline, whether it's pride, whatever it is, I just think we perform better. Something clicks, and we just go into, I've got to get this done.
I think there's an innate thing in men that has to be challenged. We have to be challenged to do something, whether that's still playing football for another season, and if you do it ongoing for a year. It's, it, I think, and I don't know if it's true or if it's science or whatever, but I think the day you stop trying to do those type of things is the day you start becoming, I want to say the word less of a man. You're put on this planet as a protector, provider, someone who goes and hunts and challenges and takes risks.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I
yeah.
think if you become domesticated to a point where you're not doing anything other than your couple of walks a week, I think, and that's where depression in men and anxiety over all that stuff comes in men a lot quicker. So I think
Yep.
challenging yourself is good. And like, we're constantly looking like one of our challenges that we want to do is we want to do the Great Wall of China marathon. But it looks horrendous. It
Yeah,
looks horrible.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. Mm.
500,000 or 50,000 steps. I don't know how many steps it is, but the video, everyone in the video looked miserable. And me
Yeah,
and my friends were like, yeah, let's
that's
try
it.
that one.
That's the one.
So
Yeah.
we're thinking, but then we did one that was just in the local area. I just designed something.
Mm. Yeah, yeah,
12 hours to do, and it'll be horrible. And we'll raise, oh, I think we raised £5 for a local charity and stuff like that.
yeah,
So
yeah.
I think it's in you, it's built in you to do it and keep challenging. Yeah, and I don't think it's a
Mm.
bad thing, and I don't think you need to bring it back. I think
No.
that like if you do something really big and then do something small, it doesn't make it a challenge like doing Beacon, which was like 60 miles
Yeah.
to a marathon. Yes, it's a smaller event, but it's not necessarily easier. Like you
And it
could go
took,
do
yeah,
a
it took
sprint
different.
5K and
Yeah,
absolutely hurt yourself.
yeah, yeah,
Put
yeah.
yourself in a kink for a 5K race,
Mm.
but the marathon was longer. I think that's
Mm.
just more of a like the bigger. Because if that's the case, then like you get these ultra runners that are doing 350-mile races. You're like, that's just like what's
Yeah,
next? 400-mile race. It's a 500-mile race.
yeah,
It's
yeah, yeah. What do you do?
running
Yeah,
the
yeah,
length, like it's doing all, and then it's running it with a weighted vest,
yeah.
and then you're in David Goggins country, and that's different.
There's only one David Goggins. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And I think
Um,
that there's that little element of challenge as well, and I must admit that that's kind of triggered something. Thought process in me was, um, for me, it wasn't enough to set up a charity to raise money in my daughter's name. As soon as I'd done that, I was like, I need to raise 10 grand this year. And already there was a target, there was a challenge, and that's not a physical challenge. Yes, physical stuff happened to get to that target,
yes.
but it's one of those again where almost, and this really helps me, is almost gamifying some of
Yeah.
the smaller processes. Like, right, okay, if I'm gonna get 4 hit sessions in this week, like not that it's about calories burned versus calories not, but like we wear our heart rate monitors. Like, right, I'm gonna make sure I hit like over those 4 sessions, I'm gonna burn 1,200 calories
Yeah.
just as a little game. It doesn't matter to anybody else. And if I miss it, I miss it. But
Yeah.
that just gives that little spark of purpose. Like, am I gonna Garmin watches? I've got mine set to a dynamic steps target, so it gets bigger as I do more steps.
Yeah.
And that's just a little bit of fun. Like, if I don't hit it, it doesn't ruin my day.
Yeah.
But it's just a nice little sense of, oh, I've got something to aim for. And I think there is that inherent competition in us
Yeah.
to just beat something or do something
My
better.
my idea, because I'm always like, what can I do for charity every year? And that's one of my things. I want to do a charity event every year. This year is the Endure 24.
Yep.
I plan that to be an annual thing in my gym. I do not plan to do it again.
Yeah.
Unless something goes terribly wrong and I feel like I need to. But I plan to bring more people in every year and then I host this charity event. And if I have 20 people or 40 people raising a minimum of €500 for charity, then the event
Yeah.
becomes a really, really good charitable thing that has been created. That I don't feel the need that I have to do it every year. I will do a challenge.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keep making them burn stronger. Stuart, this has been great. I've got one more question for you before we wrap it up. I think I could talk with you for another couple of hours on all these topics.
Yeah.
But if you were to give one piece of advice to a dad or a dad that's gone through what you've gone through, what would it be?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. And I think if I'm looking universally and say it doesn't matter, did it happen yesterday? Did it happen 10 years ago? Um, my piece of advice would be don't don't hide from what's happened. Don't pretend what's happened hasn't happened. Um, find find something to work at. Find a purpose. Find a mission. Find something to go at, and just go at it with the pain and the grief. Don't try and wait for that to subside because it never will. It hasn't. Your life is different. But just find something to go at. Find something that gives you a purpose and a reason to set an alarm in the morning and to go to bed on time and to drink your water, and to do those basic things, because just asking yourself to eat well and drink water is really tough, because everything's pulling you towards have a beer, stay up late, you deserve it because you've been through shit.
Yeah.
But just find a purpose, find something to aim at, however big, however small. Just give yourself a purpose and don't fight reality. It's happened. It's never going to change. But the bottom line is as well, you'll be okay.
Yeah.
You'll be okay.
Yeah. No,
You'll be different, but you'll be okay.
That's brilliant. That is absolutely brilliant. And what we'll do is, Stuart, thanks for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
We will put the links to Ada's Foundation and your social pages in the comments for anyone who wants to follow Stuart on his next new amazing challenge that he's going to release soon. It's indeed his biggest one apparently.
We'll see. Yeah.
And guys, if you like this show, what channel, it means a lot to me. I love bringing people on to talk about their stories, because I think it can impact as many people as possible. Even if it's one person listens to this and listens to all the other shows, that's 50 people or 55 people that will impact, which is really good. So Stuart, thanks again, and I will see you all on the next show.
The big thing I say is, like, you got to win the morning.
Heavy requirements on them to lift heavy weights.
The conversation has to be changed.
What you truly value.
No right way and there's no wrong way.
Become the source of struggle.
I kept finding myself in tears from the physical pain.
You're listening to the Stephen Kinsler Podcast.